I'm gonna introduce you to lists in Python. The list is a type of data just like string and integers, and it is used to store the list of things. It's similar to arrays in some other languages like Java. In Python, lists make it to work with ordered data. Lists are built-in data structures for storing and accessing objects which belong to a specific sequence. We will now see how to create and use lists. There are two ways to create a list. One way is to use list constructor like this. See, here example is a list data type. You can see the square brackets which shows an empty list. The simpler and most common way to use brackets when creating lists. You can pre-populate it with values. The simpler and most common way to use brackets like this. For example, let's create a list with first few prime numbers, say prime. You can always add values later by using the append method, which allows you to add values to the end of the list. Let's append the next two prime numbers, 17 and 19. If you display the list, you would see it contains the new values. Notice how list preserves the data. This is different from sets. In sets, the order is not important, while in list, order is everything. You do not have to view the entire list. If you want to view specific value, you can access it by its index. In programming world, you start counting with 0, not 1. So the elements in our list prime are indexed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To view the first item, you type the name of the list and the index in brackets. The first item is 2, the second item has index 1, and the second item is 3, and so on. Notice that how the indices increase by 1 as you go from left to right. And it decreases by 1 as you go from right to left. When you get to the beginning, the index is 0. If you decrease the index once more, you will get -1. Here, Python wraps back around end of the list. So, the last item is -1. The next to last is -2, and so on. This is convenient when you look at the end of the list. The last item is 19. Let's check the index -1. This is the last element of the list. The next to last prime is 17, and we reach at the beginning of the list with index -8. The value is 2. You can only wrap around once. If you try to find the value of -9, you will get error. Let us see another example of list. A equals square bracket 3, 10, -1, close square bracket, and this line means define a new list with the element 3, 10 and -1 and assign this list to this variable a. Let's print a, and we see that we get the list with the element 3, 10 and -1. What if we want to add an item to this list? You can do it with a.append, as we did in the previous example of prime numbers. This means append the item 1 to the list A. This dot notation is very common, so this function append, a predefined function that you can use in list data types. Let's execute it. You can see number 1 is added to the list A. One interesting thing about Python list you can use is differ from other languages like Java is that you can put mixed types in a list that we will see later in this video. Another way to access values in Python is slicing. This lets you retrieve a range of values from list. We will continue to use our list prime. To slice this list, type the name of the list, bracket, starting index, colon, stopping index, then a closing bracket. The result is a sublist that starts at index 2 and continues till end at index 5. The slicing includes the value at starting index but excludes the stopping index. The beginning value is included, the ending value is not. You can see from here the values 5, 7 and 11 are in the sublist while the index 5 is not included, which has the value 13. One more slice. This will start at the beginning, which is index 0, and continue to index 6, which is 17. It will not include the final member, so this slice includes primes 2 through 13, not 17. List can contain more than numbers. It can contain integers, booleans, strings, floats, and even other lists. Let's see with the example. We will see the contents of the list example. Here you can see it contains integer, it contains boolean, it contains string, floating point value 3.145, and it also contains a list with the elements 64 and a boolean value false. Many languages require lists to contain values of same type but not Python. With Python, you are free to insert multiple data types in the same list. List can also contain duplicate values. Here is another way lists are different from sets. For example, suppose you want to record the numbers you roll on a paired dice. You roll the dice and rolls are 4, 7, 2, 7, 12, 4 and 7. If you look at the list, all the values are there, even the repeated rolls. You can also list a list of numbers and a list of letters. We can cross check these. Here are the contents of the list number, which contains number 1, 2 and 3, and the list letters, which contains the letters A, B and C. To combine these two lists into a single list, use the plus sign. You can see the contents of both lists are combined in a single separate list, but the order matters in this. If you reverse this and compute letters plus numbers, you will get A, B and C, the contents of letter list. Combining lists is called concatenation. Observe that this list of numbers and list of letters is unchanged. There are many other methods for working with lists. To see remark, pass any list to the directory function. There are many other methods for working with lists. To see the methods, pass any list to the directory function. To learn how to use one of these methods, use help function. For example, reverse is a method for reversing a list. The help text gives full details what it does and how to use it. List starts at 0 and ends precisely when you finish. You can slice, you can concatenate, you can reverse them, you can even clear them. If I want to list all the uses of list, the list is very long. Now an exercise for you. What you have to do? You have to swap two elements of a list. Meanwhile, you try it by yourself. We will discuss about the logic. Suppose you have 3 elements in the list. These will be like this. Suppose the elements be apple, banana, orange in a list. You want to swap the value apple and orange. Then to do this, you can see it as a block. Take a temporary variable temp, store the value at b0, then store the value of b2 in b0. After that, store the value stored in the temp in b2. This is the logic. Let's try it. You can see here the list B contains 3 elements apple, banana and orange. We try the same logic as we discussed, taking a temporary variable temp and assigning the value b0 to this temp variable, storing the value of b2 into b0. Again, I am storing the value stored in the temp variable again to the b2 index of the list. Now we will see the content of the list B. You can see that the values at index 0 and index 2 has been swapped, but in Python we can do it in a pretty simple way, like that's it. Now we will see the content of B once again. Here it is. It has been swapped. This is the simple logic in Python. We will see some more stuff on lists in our next video. Thanks for watching.